Okay, we're live.
We are
Hey,
live.
everybody. Pardon?
So we're live, baby. Let's go.
Hey, everybody. My name is Joaquin, and I am the host of the AI Digest. With me today is Mr. Denzel Hill. He is a principal at Under One Sun Creative Consulting, and his main expertise lies in architectural design and agriculture. When he's not working, he is in the kitchen cooking up tasty meals and gardening. He also mentors young minds in his local schools. And Denzel, if you'd be kind enough to give us a little bit of your background.
Yes, sir. What's going on, everybody? As Joaquin said, I have an architectural background, formerly educated at Columbia University in the city of New York. Graduated in 2017, and I walked out of those bounds of Columbia with a boot on my foot. I tore my Achilles playing football, and that led me into agriculture. I knew that there was something wrong. I knew that beyond my Achilles tear, I had three shoulder surgeries. I had other weird injuries, autoimmune conditions. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And quite frankly, I knew as a space maker, as a person that gives people what they need in the name of architecture, that I had the power to produce my own solution. And so from that, I started to seek the answer of like, why was I always sick and tired? Why was I going through what I was going through? Is that dog?
I
That's
hear
my
the
dog.
dog, but it's not too big of a distraction. Yeah, don't worry
Okay,
about
cool. All right, but nonetheless, it led me down the path of understanding that we needed to create more harmony with nature. I got into plants because I wanted the most optimal oxygen in my room. So I started buying all these plants. My mom was like, "Don't buy no more plants." But I'm like, "Mom, this is where it's at." I got into plant-based living because I knew that I started to understand that, hey, food is my source of nutrition, is my source of medicine. Food is that number one thing that you should be nourishing yourself with. And so that got me into the plant-based living. And I started to understand that I needed to take a closer look at my food. Food wasn't feeding me. I wasn't getting what I thought I was getting from food. Me going to Food Line, Mom's Organic, or grocery store, Whole Foods, whatever, it didn't matter because, quite frankly, our big agriculture practices are harming the integrity of our food, and from that, it's harming the integrity of our society's health. And so, when I made that link, I just started to think, why are we not growing more food at home? We're not growing any food at home. Are we really that busy? Or are we working so hard so that, we don't starve? And if that's the case, why are we not growing food at home?
I want to make a quick observation here.
Yeah.
You were born in the Netherlands,
Yes.
you studied in New York,
Yes.
and now you're living in Georgia.
Yes. Savannah, Georgia, coming at you live.
And the Netherlands is one of the most advanced areas of agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
hydroponics, aquaponics, aeroponics,
Mm-hmm.
alloponics. And now you're living in a place where there is a food desert, as you
Yes.
illustrated to me in previous conversations and examples.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about food deserts?
Yes. I even need to take it a step further and call it food apartheid. A situation where a community is strategically placed out of the fold of providing for by the city because the city has plenty of money to provide people with their basic needs. Food apartheid meaning that they took the grocery store out of this area on the west side of Carver Village. On the west side of Savannah. I live in Carver Village, a historically recognized place here in America, not just Savannah, but in America. Carver Village is where they first gave one of the first um, African American centric communities what they need in terms of a house with running water and a community. And when I just realized that I had to go across town, get in my car and go this way or that way across town to get my food, I discovered that that wasn't normal. I discovered that that's all by design. I discovered that that's no mistake that they have a grocery store that's closed down that I pass by every time to go to the other grocery store across town, and it's being used as a church when another church is right beside it, and another church is right down the road. And so we're all caught up in this psychosis of what we think we need, when we're not even taking care of the basic need, and that's nourishment, that's food, you know?
And in today's conversation, the main topic would be bridging the gap between architecture and agriculture
Right.
as a continuation of the second episode with Dr. Ronak Panchal, where we talked about artificial intelligence technologies and our agriculture.
Yeah.
Um, there was one thing that you said in the little chat we had before this recording, before this um, podcast conversation. You said something interesting that a house has all the underpinnings, all the required elements, plumbing, which is water, electricity, which could be lighting, and then a heating system. We have all the underpinnings to create an environment to create food in our houses. Why the hell aren't we doing that now?
It's as simple as we've gone too far one way in providing people with that quick turnkey solution to their lives, and like, here's a space to live in. You got cute little park next door to you, and yeah, welcome to the neighborhood. But when they get in that house isn't producing for them. That house is not truly a home. What makes a home is that you go there, it's a place where you can escape from the world and recharge and learn more of yourself. But when we're stuck in survival mode and trying to figure out where our next meal is going to come from, we're not worried about anything other than that. Where's our next meal going to come from? Why aren't these structures that are tapered, I mean, that are plastered everywhere now, producing our food? When you have these little microclimates of food production, what will happen? What would happen if, oh, I got too many tomatoes, let me go next door. Oh, they got too many beans, how about we trade? And across the way, they got the corn, and over there they have all the herbs and whatnot. You get to talking about things of in the name of like an economic engine that's naturally permeating within these different homes that have food producing for themselves, and with that, you have ultimately a advanced society. You have a true advanced society, one that could eat for themselves, think for themselves, and create for themselves because they're in a thriving state of mind and not surviving.
Why aren't we doing that now? I mean, why
We
aren't
feel
we
like we
growing
the
spinach
right. The
at
conversation
home?
that I run into every time is that, oh, I'm gonna just go to the grocery store and get it rather than growing food, because I provide people with the solution to grow wherever they're at, no matter where they're at. With the tower garden, I'm willing to bet they could take it to space if they wanted to. And then if the tower was able to, then we'll get on that later. But like, the point is that we don't realize, we're not educated on what's going on in our food production system. When I learned that what I'm eating at the grocery store is devoid of nutrients, per the cycle of them picking it, or first of all, them growing it in soil that has been stripped of all of its nutrients because of the big agricultural practices, because of the pesticides, because of all these different things they have to do in order to guarantee that they're producing, on top of the production of that food, the shipping of that food. Go ahead.
I want to talk a little bit or dig a little bit more in that point. So you said that we're growing food in nutrition deficient soil,
Precisely.
right? And you're
Precisely.
saying that's a result of modern agricultural practices. Can you talk
Precisely.
a little bit more about why it's nutrient deficient, why it's not
Precisely.
retaining nutrients?
Yes. Anytime you cut into the land, you're harming that upper level of microbiome in the soil. Soil is alive. It's not dead. Dead soil is dirt. But soil is a whole ecosystem. And when you're cutting into the land rather than chopping and dropping, rather than providing, a permaculture setup per se, rather than allowing, the weeds to grow and then just beheading the weeds in a way. But when we take these massive machines and just think we can just, hyper produce things, there's a what do you call it? It creates a deficit in the foundation of what that seed's going into. And so that seed starts out as a deficit, and it's growing through that. But then we pump it with these artificial means of, hey, we need you to grow and look like something. It's still at a deficit. Doesn't matter what it looks like, how red that tomato is, how green that lettuce is. It's still at a deficit. A lot of
So
our produce is picked underripe. When a tomato ripens itself off the vine, this tomato right here, its last couple of days of life, it pumped in probably about 60% of the nutrients in it in that ripening, stage of life. Until then, there's not much going on in terms of that sustenance that the tomato's providing you with. And so you stack on top of the fact that this food has to be picked, shipped tens, thousands of miles, stored in the stores, bought by you. Hopefully it's bought by you, doesn't make it to a discount grocery store. Um, and then stored in the fridge and then cooked. Like, what's in your food by then? How much energy is in your food versus just saying, let me just pick this tomato and eat it, you know? Like, it's a big difference. And from my experience, like, I'm eating a lot less food because it's a lot more nourishing and your body knows what it wants. Like, hence the state of our health in this country. Like, we're overeating and undernourished.
you said something particularly of interest to me. You said that we're growing these crops in malnourished soil,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of abusing the soil, right? You
Yeah.
said permaculture. Permaculture is the practice of using native plants and growing them in a sustainable, kind of diverse way where you have different plants sort of help each other cultivate different parts of the soil nutrients
Right.
without without completely depleting it of minerals, right?
Exactly.
Um, but we're using farm land to plant monocrops, right?
Yes.
Rather than do like beanstalks and corn and
Yeah.
tomatoes in different plots, we're just doing one
Yeah.
crop and it sucks out all the nutrients. And then we put
They try to.
industrial fertilizers to enrich it.
Mhm.
And as you said, we pick it early. So it's deficient in nutrients.
Mhm.
It's picked early so that it could sustain the long journey that it needs to take from California all the way to New Jersey or New
Mhm.
York or Florida. And there's, as you said, multiple steps in that supply chain where it has to go into warehouses, get put in trucks, put in supermarkets, put in vans or cars, and taken to your house, stored, and then cooked. I mean,
It's you
it's a whole
can't.
network.
Like, how in the world can they guarantee freshness? You just can't. It's just as
People,
simple as that.
I think people are just ignorant and fooled
That's it.
by the color, by the propaganda.
Yeah, I was completely uneducated. But thankfully, this company I'm working with, that our education is our foundation. Education is the why behind your investment into a machine that grows food, your investment into planting the seed, your investment into doing the extra work and producing food for yourself. Because that work that you take to plant a seed, nature is gonna do the rest essentially. Like, when you fix your soil by allowing the leaves to fall from it every fall, and then allowing yourself to get some nutritious topsoil or using your own compost or whatnot. And these are all things that people can talk about with their local farm, at their local farmers market. You're not alone. Everybody knows it. The conversation just has to be set because we're all working so that we don't starve. Yet and still, the dollar is going, the value of the dollar is going up. The cost of food is going, the value of the dollar is going down while the cost of food is going up. The quality of the food is going down. So we're at a severe imbalance. Almost at a tipping point, I would say, because we're in a health crisis in this country. I forget the metrics behind it, but as advanced as America is, our health is like teetering. It's teetering. We're severely obese in this country. We're massively like under the stress of gotta get to the dollar, gotta hurry up and get my raise so essentially I don't starve because You're not buying that Louis V bag if you're hungry. You're gonna
One of
get
the
your food.
one of the biggest causes of death in America is poor heart health, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like heart
clogged arteries.
attacks and clogged arteries,
Yep,
high cholesterol, and all that stuff.
yep. It's all related.
So here's the challenge, right? Food production. We depend on massive farms to grow one crop and then ship it to all other 50 states or all the different neighboring territories that require that kind of food.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, so what's the solution? I mean,
The solution is educating people about growing the food that they like to eat most. That's the solution. Because once you get someone curious about, what could it look like growing my favorite collard, my favorite green? What could it look like growing a salsa mix? Some peppers, cilantro, and tomatoes. What does that look like? Just the curiosity is the solution. Because once you realize that it's almost as simple as just planting that seed and watering it, as a that there's some struggle at the beginning of learning that, but once you realize that, wait, when I get one tomato, inside that tomato I got about 40 seeds. That's one heck of a probability that I'm willing to pay for myself. I'm gonna plant all 40 of those seeds and see what happens. Nurture them. 29 don't grow, but I got another 11 that's still like ready and flourishing and whatnot. Then from that, you get even more seeds. Start to talk about that whole feedback loop of growing your food and why it makes fiscal sense to do so, and why when you do it together with other people, it compounds tremendously fast. You talk about investing your time, your energy, your money into something. Agriculture is so underserved that when we start to do it, the cost of food is going to fall dramatically. So when you just paint that picture to people that become curious, is it really that hard growing food? Or have someone just not set it up for you? Has someone not built the house for you that will create that situation? Have you
I
considered? Yeah, go ahead.
I think that there's no excuse at this point. I mean, I see the tower garden right behind you, that
Mm-hmm.
white food safe PVC um, device right there that
There's
can
two
be.
of them.
Oh, there's two of them.
Yep, got two of them now. That's the Tower Garden Flex, and that's the Tower Garden Home right
Okay,
there.
there's those two tower gardens that you can put in your backyard, or you can put inside of your house, and you
Right.
can plug in like a regular toaster. I mean, if you could plug in a toaster,
Yes.
and do you need to put water in that, or how does that like?
Yes. The great thing about aeroponics is that it saves about 93% of the water that you use conventionally, because as the water falls, it goes back into the same basin that it came from.
Those
So,
tower gardens are an aeroponic solution, and
correct.
aeroponic means air, like providing nutrients through air, or what? What?
Correct. It
Can
means
you,
that the roots are always suspended versus with hydroponic, it's soaking the roots in water, thus taking more water to.
that's when it grows these long fibrous roots, and it kind of just they're sprawled out so that it can capture the water with the
Yeah,
nutrients falling through, right?
yeah, correct.
So what's the difference between that and hydroponics?
So hydroponics, they almost call it soakaponics because the roots are soaking up all that water all the time. And the great thing to know about plants is they like a little bit of stress. When they get the chance to enter those dry spells, they become stronger. Therefore, the fruit that they produce and the leaves that they produce, they're more nutritious for you because, say, they've been through the Savannah sun. And so when you eat that, you kind of express that. Not kind of, but you do express that. So that's the difference. It just saves more water because the roots aren't always soaking. You can kind of hear it now. The water is falling from the top of it's being pumped from the bottom to the top of the tower, and it falls and cascades over the roots, and it allows the root ball to be soaked. And the root ball is situated by way of cocoa core cube, little tiny cube, no dirt at all, and allows you to grow your food no matter where you're at.
And those are made out of coconut husk, or what is it? What are they made
Yeah,
out of?
you can either get the ones made out of rock wool, or you can get the ones made out of coconut shells.
And so what's the difference here? I mean, we're talking about decentralized food production
Mhm.
mechanisms that you can put in your kitchen or
Uh-huh.
whatever, these tower gardens. But like, let's be honest, like, what's the difference between growing things in dirt and growing things via an aquaponic device?
Right. The difference is a lot less work. The difference is this is like growing food on training wheels. You know, it's so easy. Like you put the water in it, you put the nutrients in it, you set your timer, and once your seed is germinated and sprouted, you can even buy your own seedlings from official providers. And that's what I'm looking to get here in Savannah to make this vision even more clear. But anyways, once you plant the seed, it takes care of itself because especially if it's outside, you got the sunlight shining on it, the water's cascading every 45 minutes. And when it's inside, you can have a set of lights on it. It comes with its own lights, or you can get you can get a set of lights that sit on top of it, and they circumnavigate the tower, and they grow tremendously because it's in a controlled environment inside. And so that's where my vision goes for the homes. But in terms of conventional garden, I just tell people to consider like diversifying the ways that you grow food because when I can take a tomato cutting from my garden and propagate it on the tower, and the tomatoes on the tower outperform what's growing in the garden, that's saying, okay, I need to build my soil more. You know, I said it before, but like I need to reiterate that our soil is in a tremendous deficit because of all the things that's in our air, our water, and it's caused an effect on our environment. And so we have work to do to cultivate that. And there's ways that you can do that, and that's going to take time. And so I say to everybody, start with where you're at, yes, but consider diversifying the way that you're growing. You know, say if you can just do a container garden, consider how much it takes to water that and keep it watered. You know, how much energy are you really putting in versus investing in a machine that will do it for you? You know, consider how much energy it takes to really sustain a garden. You know, I to put my football energy into mine, and so it works really well. You know, I have two massive raised beds, and it's a permaculture setup. I got about 6 different fruit trees, all your basic herbs, medicinal herbs, and things coming out the ground that I didn't even know I had. And quite frankly, I'm gonna get another tower garden soon because it's just too easy not to. You know, it's almost like having a commodity. It's like putting money in the bank and just getting more money out of it because I'm
So
taking.
I think you said something interesting a little earlier in this in the vein and the direction of this conversation,
Hmm.
where you mentioned a word propagate that not everybody might be familiar with.
Yeah,
Propagation is what exactly?
propagation is basically the cloning of a plant. So if you have a tomato vine and you take a cutting of that vine, you take that cutting, you put it in your Rockwell cube. I can't do it right now if you wanted me to. You put it in a Rockwell cube and you put that cube in the tower. It's going to grow more because it wants to live. It's going to take all those nutrients that are within that vine and put it towards producing roots. Once those roots are produced, they'll be in that controlled, optimal environment, and they're going to be like, oh, thank you, new life, more life. And then you're going to have more tomatoes growing. You're going to have like double the amount.
This the second point in the comparison that you had between the aquaponics and traditional farming outside in your backyard,
Mhm.
is that the outside is subject to the conditions of the weather and the
Yeah,
environment and the season, right?
yeah,
So you
yeah,
can't grow tomatoes during the winter because they'll freeze and they'll die.
right.
But you did mention that indoors you have a controlled climate.
Yeah.
If it's suitable for a person, it sure as hell will be suitable for a range of particular plants that you want to grow inside as well, right?
Yeah. And just imagine having your architectural brand really centered on the fact that I need some type of way or situation or within my program, we're going to be growing food in this certain spot in the home. It's going to be a high oxygen, high moisture environment. We're going to be able to funnel that in and out in a certain way, stack effect, passive heating and cooling from all the water, moisture going on in that room. Maybe it's just a earthen floor. You never know. It's all it takes is just a little bit of innovation, and that's the direction that I'm headed in as I gain the basic knowledge and understanding of what it takes to be a building professional um, within my own right.
And, to boot, it doesn't even require that much work because nowadays we have computers and, the Internet of Things, software that drives,
Right,
devices that you plug into your
right.
house.
Right.
Um,
Let's shift it to AI. Let's shift it to the terms of in terms of AI in relation to the AI digest. Within our various programs, we have plugins that can literally tell you that the solar heat gain that you're going to have, the different types of sun paths on a yearly basis that are going to provide you with what you think you may need in terms of just solar rays entering the interior of your space. We have technologies that can help you track whether or not your blinds are up or down. How about technology that could track whether or not your plants got enough water running through them? I mean, all we got to do is just create the solution to the problem, and it's just going to take off. Agro technology is severely underserved because we got the hands of our food. Our food production is in the hands of big agriculture, but it's slowly but surely shifting as people see the need and see the deficit within our market, of producing food.
it's no secret that, um, people from our communities, I'm Salvadorian, people from Hispanic, Latino communities, and Black communities
Mhm.
are disproportionately affected by these food deserts and lack of, healthy alternative foods, you know?
Right.
Let's put the culture and all that aside, but just being able to buy spinach at a price that is on par with, some things that are otherwise, accessible, like going to McDonald's or whatever, I think that
Uh-huh.
also has something to do with it, and being able to produce food at home at a
Mhm.
sustainable price, and you can cut 1 tomato plant and turn that into 20 tomato plants and keep perpetuating and growing the system, is there really any reason why we shouldn't get started?
It's a little bit of education. I just ask people to become curious about what they don't know because our brains are literally designed to protect us from the unknown, but our consciousness is what allows us to get over that hump. Our community is what allows us to get over that hump because you don't have to know it all. You don't have to grow it all. All you have to do is ask, go to the farmer's market, ask him. Look up your nearest farm, ask them. Or just go to Google and YouTube. That's how I started. I was on Google watching, these guys, Hugh Richards and all these different people doing this gardening stuff. And I just could not help but see the link between architecture and agriculture. I couldn't help it because when they're done growing it, they got to store it somewhere. And that just being able to situate the program of a home with those processes, you have efficiency. And with efficiency, you have thriving conditions. And with thriving conditions, you're no longer surviving. You're on a whole nother plane of existence. Whereas you can now start to think, who's around me that needs this, who's around me that wants to create something. I got these ideas now because I'm so nourished with the optimal nutrition, and that's literally I'm a testament of that. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I was sick for a lack of understanding of what I was eating. I ran a 4.3. I could jump 42 inches, and I was cut like any NFL athlete would be. You couldn't tell me nothing. But when I tore my Achilles, when I saw things like What the Health, when I became curious, started talking to the farmers, and they're echoing the same things in terms of the big agricultural practices that are harming their small farm practices. That's when it was time to take charge of my own food.
And I think, right now would just be an excellent time to make a really big point
Uh huh.
that this has far-reaching consequences as you're talking from your personal experience.
Hmm.
It's not a matter of just eating healthy and being, healthy. It's not about, like, the vanity of looking good. It's that it has a direct impact on our population health, on healthcare at large. I mean, if you're eating well If you're taking care of your body, you're less likely to be injured. You're more likely to regenerate your body with its own machine because the
Oh,
body's a beautifully designed, amazing machine that's capable of doing so much.
amazing.
We won't really have to exert ourselves to painful surgery or arduous recovery periods of time. Um, yeah, I mean,
I was
anything.
going to Columbia University doing an architecture program and playing football at the same time, and I thought I was doing something. When I got out of school and started eating right, started implementing things like meditation and just sunlight into my day to day, dude, I'm living on levels like like I get to procrastinate. Like, I can stop working 4 hours because I've done so much and my mind is on a focused level. And that got me to realize that, man, it costs a lot to be unhealthy. It costs you a lot of time to be tired. You shouldn't wake up with 30% battery on your phone. You're, you're gonna you're gonna have wits with Apple. You're gonna
Yeah,
have a word to say. You're gonna have a bone to pick with them if your phone is constantly on 30%. Bro, I just charged this all night. Why is it on 30%?
people really out of a lack of education
That's it.
go years on putting band-aids to the root of the problem of being malnourished or undernourished.
Hmm.
And they drink coffee, they pound sugar, energy drinks, they eat fast food. They say common ailments are normal.
Right.
I ate a big lunch. I got the itis. They don't talk about I just pounded a huge spike of insulin into my system. Hence, my body's like going into shutdown mode. They're
Yeah.
not talking about their cholesterol levels. Um, it's just a lot of undereducation and
Yeah.
awareness around how do we build a resilient, distributed, decentralized supply chain of food, of quality food.
So it's gonna happen from both a top down and bottoms up approach because everybody eats. It's not no one stop shop solution. It's gonna happen both ways, top down and bottoms up. Top down in the way of city policy, implementing community garden activities and fellowship around, harvesting and cultivating food. Bottoms up by way of planting a seed alongside your neighbor and sharing your abundance with your neighbor. Like just yesterday, neighbor was like, "What you got going over there? You got some green tomatoes?" I was like, "Sure, I got some green tomatoes for you." Gave her green tomatoes. That night, her son was over with about 2 pounds of walnuts for me and a pound of raisins, and that was awesome because I didn't have that, but I got plenty of tomatoes growing, and just that right there, my little experience, day to day experience. I'm like, man, I need more of this. We need to be around. We need to have community farmers markets and community market stalls and things like that because everybody eats. We're going to people to get our food, and they don't care about our nourishment. They care about the profit, and they're doing a great job turning profit. They're doing a great job.
Denzel, I think we can take a lot away from this conversation. We
Yeah,
have
man.
everything we need to get started with food production at home. There's
Mhm.
really no excuse. We got all the underpinnings, water, light, and heat being the main pieces of that. We're responsible for our own health, for our own nutrition, and going into free resources like Google and YouTube is a good start.
Right.
Um, who needs to reach out to you? Who would you like to talk to from this point forward when we close this podcast?
I've been having some great harmonious conversations with engineers because they're the ones that really provide the other piece of the puzzle of practicality when it comes to this vision. On top of that, it's the people that are already growing food that never considered diversifying those manners in growing food. And most importantly, if you're experiencing some type of health issue, if you're experiencing anything, I don't care what badge they put on it, reach out to me. Everybody's going through it. Everybody's generations have these certain illnesses because from the 1940s on, they gave us grocery stores and they took away community, these gardens, and spawned a bunch of health issues. It's no secret. So I ask everybody, almost everybody, to become. If you're curious about this conversation, this is my life path. This is my life work. You know, my parents were a little bit confused, like, Farmer Zell, what you doing over there? Like, I'm collecting data. It's okay. I'm collecting data. Got my hands in it there. I'm understanding what these plants need and whatnot, so that when it comes time to bridge the gap between architecture and agriculture, I'll be able to hand people what they need. I'll be able to give that gift of a house that grows food. I'll be able to give that gift of a solution to the developer, you know, in terms of metrics and monies of the lives that you're impacting and the brand that you're building, that's going to take you to a whole nother echelon. It's going to leave you in that blue ocean being the guy that you want to call him if you want your people to live well and your community and your city to flourish. Because once we're out of the survival mentality, we're going to thrive. We're going to create beyond what our imaginations could ever even say within
I,
just one mind.
I just want to put a minor asterisk there. You want people that are sick. You're not a medical trained professional, but
No,
you come from the background and the philosophy that food is your medicine. Like Socrates said, "Let food be thy medicine."
that's it.
Right.
That's
So
it.
anybody that wants to have a means or enter the world of producing food at their home in a healthy, sustainable, productive way,
Mhm.
you're the person to go to.
Right. I believe that education is critical. So, like, that's why I partner with this company to provide that. We start with education. We don't start with telling you the solution. We start with educating you around your pain point. So, what's your pain point? I don't know what you need if you don't tell me what you need. You know, we don't know that that say we don't know what the retirement home needs if we don't ask them. Like, have y'all ever considered this type of activity for the seniors with the schools? Have you ever considered financial literacy through agriculture? All these different, you know, cross disciplinary understandings of these young minds through agriculture. Because once you eat something that's been grown fresh,
You can't go
you're gonna
back. Your world changes forever.
you're gonna remember. You're gonna remember, and you're gonna want more. You're gonna want to know more.
Thank you, Denzel, for your time. And yeah, anybody that's looking
Thank
to
you.
build a sustainable source of food in their kitchen, in their bathroom, in their bedroom, wherever that may be, consult Denzel. He's an architect with a incredible amount of experience and depth of knowledge in agriculture. Um, yeah, peace out.
Thank you. This is invigorating. Passionate about this, and everybody else have a great day in thinking about this, and just become curious. Or what can I produce for myself?